Look at this, y'all. This is my green stalk tower where I planted all my lima beans. And look right there. That's a volunteer, looks like a pepper plant coming up. And I had a few more volunteers around in here. But yeah, I've got my lima beans coming up right there. And see that one? It's still got the lima bean on the end of it. It'll fall off eventually. And there's one down there, so they are coming up. They're taking their time about doing it, but they are coming up. But the reason I'm out here today, I've got a bunch of sunflowers. Look at that. At least I pulled these out and I got them in little pots to transplant them somewhere else. Because I don't want them in my squash pot. And see, I've still got sunflowers coming up in there, and I need to get some of them out. I don't want all of those in there. But what I'm going to do, and see, one reason I wanted to get my transplants out before it rained, look how pretty they look. And there's Lucky. Yeah. Yeah, I know. He likes talking to you. Yeah, he does. He likes talking to you. Yeah. You gonna help me in the garden? We gotta go pull some sunflowers. And look how beautiful my raspberry bush is growing. It's so pretty and green, it should produce 1,000,001 berries, but so far I've not had any berries on it. Hopefully this year putting compost and fertilizer and different things to it will help it produce some raspberries. If it doesn't, I'm just going to have to move it out from this area and put it out in full sun, and maybe that'll help. And you know, all of the instructions I've ever seen about planting strawberries has been to let me get my garden trowel. They say to plant them with the crowns way above the ground, above the dirt. They say if you bury the crown, it'll die. Well, the instructions that came with my strawberry plants was to put the crown 1/4 inch under the dirt. So I don't know. I kind of did mine about halfway. But there's one of my strawberry plants right there. There's one there that's broke off. There's one. And I'm so glad I got them yesterday and I got them in the ground before it rained. Because it should help ensure that they live now that it's rained and it's, cooled off for a day. But look at this. All of my Yoko pole beans. I've got a cucumber at the end. Popcorn planted. I think 1 or 2 of the popcorns is starting to come up. And I put the popcorn in there so my beans would climb up the cornstalk. So we'll see how that works. But it looks like all my seeds have come up here. That little thing is just crammed full of peas. And I don't know if that's a lavender or not that's coming up. I've never planted lavender before. I don't know how long it takes. But parsnips never did really come up here. So I had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strawberry plants left over. So I went ahead and amended that a little bit with peat moss, mulch, and different things. And I planted the 7 or 8 that I had left in half of this raised bed. The marigolds are coming up in the corner. You can see. But the parsnips, I don't know, maybe that one package of seed was not any good. Because, I planted some last year in a tote. They never came up. So I don't feel bad about it. I just think the seeds were not good. I've got my pole beans coming up here. And I know that's not a pole bean. Not a pole bean, it's butterfly peas coming up. And they're supposed to have a really pretty flower, and that's one reason I planted them. You can make tea with the flowers, I think. And there's my banana tree, y'all. It's trying to come back to life. You see that little sprout? It's about 2 inches tall. So I hope it survives. My collards, I've lost one collard over there already. Well, the tree collards. But look, that one's alive. This one's alive, so it must have took root. This one has started to grow. I'll plant a tomato plant or something there. And here I've got a tomato plant. That looks beautiful. Another collard. And that's a pepper. I think that's a red bell pepper, and I planted jalapeno in there too, of all things. And there goes my tomato. That's a bush early girl tomato, and it's got blooms on it already. And look how little it is. It's not even a foot tall, and it's got blooms at the very top. I got collards here. And I put some a couple of onions in with them to help deter the pest from coming on my my tomato plants. And there's another early girl. And it's got blooms. Look at the top. It's got a yellow bloom on there. My eggplant has not come up yet. That's that Casper eggplant. A white one. My carrots. Look at that. The carrots from last year, look how tall they are. That was seed left in there from last year. I got a yellow squash at this end in that little pot. I got a big tomato there. No, that's a big dill cucumber. But look at all these tomato plants that came up voluntarily. I've got to pull them out and put them somewhere else in the garden. I can't, that's about 100 tomato plants right there. I've got cilantro coming up here in that tier. I've got dragon stir fry mix in the bottom one. I've got kohlrabi coming up there. The coleus never did come up. I'm wondering if the seed was any good. And I've got a few lettuce that came up here. I think it was getting too hot on them. But there's a couple at each end, so we'll see. My peas. And see, I got a big sunflower right here. In this little bitty pot, that's a sunflower. This is a sunflower. I can't leave all those in there. So there you go. I'm pulling a couple of them out. I can't leave that big old sunflower in there. That's a sunflower right there, too. Got my corn coming up. And the whole idea behind that is for the peas to climb up the corn. And I got a corn coming up in there, but the peas never came up. Isn't that silly? And the peas never did come up in that end black pot down there. So I don't know what I'll do with it. I think I planted some more seeds in there. I got a zucchini. I've just planted a zucchini in there, in this little one. Because I think my, tree collard is gone. It froze. It would have survived, but it froze. Trying to twist it off, y'all. Here, let's put this camera down. The legs adjusted. Put my gloves on. I probably shouldn't do this, but it's rotted. It froze. I don't think it's going to come back. I'm going to leave the very stalk in the pot there, but I'm just going to break it off. That'll go in the mulch. Yeah, I got a zucchini planted here. And I replanted peas here. I don't know if they're going to come up or not, and I don't know why they're not. And I got a tomato, Golden Jubilee Brandywine tomato over there. But yeah, I've got too many sunflowers coming up in here. When you got too many, they'll pull all the nutrients from the other plants, and therefore none of them will grow well. So I got sunflowers and corn and a tomato. Golden Jubilee Brandywine tomato. And I got a Golden Jubilee tomato planted back there. A zucchini here. I've got a zucchini and a pepper right there. And I've got zucchini, golden tomato, and a pepper plant over there in that round one. So we'll see what happens with it. But I got to get around here and pull out some of these sunflowers. They're going to go crazy. And they'll pull that whole tote over, because those things get about 10 foot tall. They'll be about 10 foot tall, full grown, and they will tilt those pots over. Because I had a heck of a time with them last year when they came up in my pots like this. But look at all those sunflowers, y'all. They're in my onions. Got to get them out. Because, you know, I had 2 or 3 big sunflowers growing in these pots, and it almost destroyed my pots last year. So I'm getting them out this year. I'm not leaving them. I'm going to put them in the ground. Got one here. Yeah, as I see them come up, I'm going to pull them out and put them somewhere else. Because they don't need to be in my pots. Do not need to be in my pots with my onions. Let's get a better angle here. I'll move back over here. Can you see? There we go. I'm going to have a ton of plants. I know that. And I won't replant most of them. I mean, there's too many. But I'll replant what I can. But when they drop seeds in this good rich dirt that I've made, you know, the compost, they grow like crazy, y'all. They will it'll take all of the nutrients and the water from your onions or anything else you've got planted in a pot or a tote like this. So you really don't want. Look at that big snail. Look at that. He's alive too. He's in there. I mean, look at this. He's in there. I don't know if you can see it, but that's a live shell right there with a snail. Yeah, the sunflowers grow really good in these totes. They get plenty of water. They get plenty of nutrients from the potting soil that I made. You know, from compost and everything else. But I don't want them to grow in my totes because these are the big, great big sunflowers. These need to be put in the ground. And they do well in the ground. I had some in the ground last year. And they do really well. But yeah, I don't want them growing with my vegetable plants. And this is the perfect time to pull them out and transplant them when the ground is good and wet. Look at all these. Oh my gosh. They'll kill out my onions. I especially don't want them growing in this up here on this being elevated like this. That many in there will surely dump this thing right over. I can plant something else in here because I think it's already ruined part of my onions. I should have pulled them out sooner, I guess. I got a ton of them here. But wherever they drop seeds, you know, especially if it's in good soil like it's in these totes, all the compost and everything I've put in there to help my onions and the other plants grow, these sunflowers will grow like crazy. And you don't have to replant them. I mean, they'll drop seeds each year. And all of these came up from the seeds that was dropped last year. I mean, I love sunflowers, but not in my vegetable totes. They're working next door on that house today. I don't know what they're doing. But they've been banging. Going to town over there. And when the ground is really wet, they're easier to pull up without breaking the roots off. You don't have to dig in your pot to get them up. Now, maybe my onions will have a chance in there. And oh my gosh, look at these. Make sure you can see what I'm showing you. Yeah, you can see that. I mean, look at all these plants I got in this bucket. Yeah, I don't want these started in my raised beds. I don't want them in my totes, buckets, or anything. I got hundreds of dollars of sunflower plants here. How much do you think one sunflower plant would cost you at the store, at the nursery? Probably at least $3, $4, $5 or more for one plant, the way the prices are nowadays. And it's supposed to start getting hot after today. It'll probably rain later today. And then tomorrow, the next day, and the next week, it's supposed to start getting hot. It'll be up in the 80s during the day. I mean, it's pretty warm here today. Look at this, y'all. I've already got a bucket full of sunflower plants. So don't be afraid if they come up voluntarily in your pot with your vegetables. Just wait till they get pretty good size and pull them out. Transplant them somewhere else where you don't mind them spreading. And sometimes they won't spread. It just depends on how much rainfall you get. Because I don't think any of the plants came up where I had that big 10-foot tall one out there on the property line last year. I don't think the seeds stayed wet enough to germinate and actually grow. And they need sunshine. They do better right out in the open sun. As long as they get enough water to survive. They grow better in the sunshine. Because I tried them in my front rock garden and they didn't do too well there because they didn't get sun. But now my onions have a chance to thrive and grow. But before we get busy planting those, I want to show you some of my other stuff over here. There goes my yellow squash. There's yellow squash. Got three healthy plants come up in there. And I've got one that came up in here. And oh my gosh, look at the volunteer tomato plants. I'm going to have so many tomato plants, it's going to be crazy. And there's zucchini, and I got tomato plants coming up in there too. Look at that over in the corner. That's a tomato. Right down there in the center, that's a tomato. My turnips, my beets. And by gosh, I've got sunflowers coming up in there. I don't want sunflowers coming up in there. I'll get those out later. But here is my marigolds, my cucumbers. They haven't started climbing yet, but they will pretty soon. I put marigolds on the edges on each side, and I put holy basil there, and it looks like it's coming up. I got a couple of little bitty sprouts down in there. I don't know if you can see them. But my poblano pepper's not come up yet. I don't know if it will or not, but I planted one there. But that looks a lot better with my onions. Now my onions have a chance to grow and thrive. Produce me some big onions, because I planted, what was it, yellow onions and red onions. And these two, I think there's yellow or red onions here. These are Egyptian walking onions. These are Egyptian walking onions, and I left some sunflower seeds here. Sunflower plants. Thought I got them all, but I didn't. There's one in the middle. And I thought I got all of them out of there, but I didn't. But as they grow and get bigger, you can see where they're at and pull them out. Like that one was hiding from me. I think I've got them the best I could. And I had my catnip planted here in this corner, but I pulled it out because it was taking over my onions. And I put it in a pot, but I think it just finally died. So look at that. I've got a whole bucket full of sunflower plants. Look at that. Little buddy, you're so silly. He's so silly. Him and Lucky both. It does my heart good to see them. It seems like they hang out and do stuff like that just to make me laugh at them. Look at that. He said, I know I'm cute. He says, I know I'm cute. And there comes Lucky. Pretty babies. Yeah, I hope my strawberries do good. I'll have this bed started with them and half of that bed in the back, on the very back there started. I need to move that bed about 6 inches further toward me because it's right on the property line. But it's okay for now because it's in the easement. But if I ever want to put a fence up, I'm going to have to move it back toward me a little bit and get it off the property line. Because you got to be a couple of inches off the property line to put a fence anyway. And see, I got to finish putting my wood chips out here. That's where I stopped the other day. I got about half of this done. And see my watermelon? I probably did wrong, but I planted pumpkins right there. I've got my little green watermelon right here. My jalapeno hasn't come up yet. And my black diamond watermelon has not come up yet. Unless that's Charleston Gray. And my ultra cool hybrid hasn't come up. So, you know, even if they don't come up, I've still got watermelon, pumpkin. I got 2 different watermelons and a pumpkin growing. So, we'll see. Look at that. See, that's the way they do. They follow me around and they'll lay down right where I'm at. They like to hear me talking, I think. I think they think I'm talking to them when I'm talking to the camera. But yeah, you can see I've got some more ground cover cloth to lay in that corner. And then I need to bring in some more wood mulch over here. And then I'm going to be pretty much done with this corner of the yard. Because I'm not doing all of this year. Just the part that's enclosed in these little logs. And that's where my watermelon and my pumpkin vines will grow. It'll keep them up out of the dirt and the weeds. But I've got mums coming up here. And I'm trying to pick a spot to put the sunflowers. And I think this spot right here, if I'm not badly mistaken, set the camera up. I think that spot right there, if I can get it down to show you. I think that spot just on this side of the bucket is where I had a big 10-foot tall one growing last year. So I'm going to try to plant one here. It'll grow right beside my rock seat, and that'll be okay. In fact, I'm going to plant more than one. I got 4 of them here. That is, if I can dig a hole for the rocks. It might be too dry. Yeah, it's too many rocks. But the thing about it, these sunflowers will find water. And I'll have to put a rock border around them so when I mow, I don't mow them down. I don't know where else to put one. Ooh, I don't want to put them too far back in my garden. See, I had a big tall one growing here, but I don't see any volunteer sunflowers coming up. It was too dry. I'm going to move the camera up here a ways and turn it around. Slowly but surely. So you can see what I'm doing. I don't know where else to put them, y'all. I can put one here. If I can dig a hole. There's so many rocks, you can't hardly dig. If they can find a hole between the rocks, the roots will go down between the rocks and they'll survive. That dirt's pretty dry down in there. But I'm going to come back with some more dirt and a couple of rocks and put over the top of that so I don't mow them down. And hopefully with the added dirt, it'll help them survive. There's a rock down in there. I got so many of these, oh my gosh. That's a clump of 4, so I'm just gonna put them in there. And they're gonna wilt down until I come back and water them a little bit. There is a little bit of moisture in the dirt, but not much. Whew. Man, I got a ton of these things. And see, I've got one growing right there in the pot already. It came up as a volunteer. Stop here at my rose bush. I'm going to try to put one here. I got a, oh yeah, this looks good because this going deep. Yeah, when I planted this, I left the sunflower in that pot or the tote. I thought it was the shorter sunflowers. But if it was, they sure grew about 8 to 10 foot tall. And I think I got a volunteer coming up with my rose bush right here. Right there. See that one in the back right there? And I got a bunch of them coming up here with my, I think that's a 4 o'clock coming up right there beside that sunflower. Right there, I think that's the 4 o'clocks coming up. And that's the sunflower, 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 and sunflower. So I'm going to have sunflowers this year whether I want them or not. I just don't want to throw all these plants away. I love sunflowers too good to do that. So we'll see what happens with these. I just have to remember to come back and I think I planted that one too far out. Oh, this is some good wet dirt here. They should grow real good. I wouldn't even put rocks around them, but I don't want to mow them down when I come out here and mow because I don't see them. See if I can put one here. Oh, that's rocks. I might put one there. Yeah, I got that one back here too far over. Oh well, I'll leave it there. It's close to the property line, but it's not on it. Yeah, I'm just going to put something around them to keep me from mowing them down, because I think they'll be pretty all along here. Plant them up this way. I had one growing right beside my, there's a rock down in there. But a sunflower may grow. It may find water. It may go along the rock and spread roots out somewhere. Right beside my rose bush. I don't know if I should put Billy there or not. That's going to be kind of close to mow. Over here. Oh, it's a boulder. There's a boulder rock down there. I'm not going to be able to do anything there. But I got sunflowers there, and I got some started here. out because there's too many for them to grow well. I'd love to leave every one of them, but they're not going to grow if you do. Not very well anymore. That's two, that's enough. I wish I could dig a hole here. Look, there's a big boulder under there. Oh well. Maybe I'd put one right at the property line. Nope. Can't do it. I don't know how they got that stake down in the ground for that flag. But, like I said, I'm going to put rocks around those so I don't mow them with the mower. And I'm going to go ahead and stick a bunch of them right out here with my moonflowers and my other wildflowers. Because I don't care if those sunflowers come up and spread all over this. I've got moonflowers coming up everywhere. Baby's breath, which I don't want. But I plant them around this stump. You don't have to look at the stump. Get them deep enough. Maybe the wind won't blow them over. Oh, it's going to be full of moonflowers though this year, I'll tell you that. Because I can already see them coming up. But I think that'll look good to plant them here and cover up the stumps as they grow. I don't know what that is. Don't need to be here though. And I got that morning glory coming up again. I really didn't want that here. But I've got it whether I want it or not. And that stuff, once it gets started, it's awful. You can't get rid of it. It takes over everything. So it'll probably grow all over these sunflowers this year. Because I got good rich dirt in here. Sunflowers ought to go crazy. All kind of vines. That part is dry. This is wild baby's breath, and it's pretty, but it has like little fuzzy stickers. And I call them stickers because they can just brush your clothes and they stick. I mean, they don't hurt. They don't have a sticker that hurts you or anything, but I tell you what, they don't want to turn loose. Now, I hope it rains again later today. I think it was supposed to. To give these sunflowers the best chance of making it. But what to do with these vines, though. They should grow good here. They get a lot of sun. They'll get sun all day long. I'll put compost tea on them when I get through transplanting them. Got tons of wildflowers coming up in here, which is good. They'll be pretty too. You notice I'm putting several in one hole. At least maybe one of them will survive out of all of them. But this dirt that's here, it's like 30 bags of compost, wood chips, sand, topsoil, you name it has been put in here over the years, and it's built up quite a nice raised bed for my flowers. I'm just sorry that the tree wasn't getting enough water to keep it alive. Whew. But I want them all in the middle because they get the tallest. They'll get 10, 12 foot tall. And you'll be able to see all the other flowers on this side of it. And you know what? I probably need to put some around the other stumps, but I really wanted them in the center. That's where I got them. The other stumps will be covered up by the moonflowers and stuff. So I still got to move some rocks over here, border the sunflowers along the property line. And I want to put some over here. Because they grew well here last year, but the wind was terrible on them. So I want to try to put some here this year. I need all this grass out of here. Or some of these wildflowers are just taking over. It's a ground cover, but I think my wildflowers will, my sunflowers will grow down between it. That ground cover will help keep them wet. And I got an oak tree coming up here. I'm debating whether to leave it or not. I put these sunflowers kind of deep, because that's where the water is. Kind of deep down in there. Ooh. I need to move my camera again. I got tons of wildflowers coming up all over the yard. And a lot of them in the rock garden here, which is good. Oh. I've got perspiration dripping off my nose, y'all. I think they'll be pretty here with the bird bath. love sunflowers. Because they love the sunflower seeds. Whew. I don't want to cover up the bird bath. I want it to be seen. Whew. To keep turning the camera. I got a crepe myrtle growing here that I planted. It's starting to come back out. Oh, I got so many roots down in here. I have to go down below the roots for these sunflowers. Whew. Got all these other things that are attracted. They attract butterflies and different things, but I want my ground cover to take over this area, not all this other stuff. The ground cover will help keep everything cool. some of the grass out of here. Nobody ever said a garden or flowers were not work. See how my ground cover is covering this area, and it helps keep the ground cool. It helps keep the moisture from evaporating when it gets real hot weather, and it helps to keep these other plants surviving due to the extreme heat here in Texas. But I don't need the grass in here with it. Oh. This ground cover helps eliminate a lot of the grass too. I don't remember the name of it. I remember planting it years ago, and it took a long time for it to ever cover the ground like it's done. Whew. And it's all in here too. My rose bush don't need that much. Pull part of it out. It's just going to continue growing. My rose bush needs water too. Whew. Some of this stuff I think put roots down to China. Whew. Yeah, I want my ground cover, but I don't want a lot of this other stuff. It gets too tall. And it kind of invades my rose bush here. Too tall and bushy, put it that way. Some of this will help the rose bush as well. It'll keep the ground down. So I'm not pulling it all out, but it was getting a little thick. Take some of this that I'm pulling up, and I'm going to put it to the other parts of the yard, and it can grow there. It'll grow there from the seeds that are still in it. But see, I found here in Texas, the way this ground is, if you wait till a good hard rain and the ground is really soft and wet, it's the best time to transplant anything, and it's the best time to pull up anything that you don't want there because it comes up easier. It comes up a lot easier than it would have any other time. And I planted some of these in different places, but I really don't want them here to take over my rock garden. I'll have a bunch come up next year, I'm sure, here from the seeds that have already dropped, so I'm not afraid that they're going to disappear. See how easy they pull up once the ground is wet? Even the grass comes up easier. Whew. I'm sweating like crazy. It's real humid today since it has been raining. This is the best time in the world to pull up grass or anything you don't want in your flower bed. Oh. And like I said, a bunch of it will grow back anyway. But this will help keep it down to a minimum anyway. But that's one of your garden tricks, that is, tips. If you got a flower bed to weed or anything like that, wait till it rains and then get out there and do it. It'll be so much easier to pull the stuff out that you don't want in there. Or after you hose it down real good, if you can run that much water, which I can't with this water restriction we've got. I rely solely on nature and compost tea, basically. got a couple of volunteer sunflowers coming up here from where I had planted a couple here last year. Yeah, sometimes the flower seed that you plant doesn't come up the same year you plant it, but it might show up the next year. I found. Whew. Yeah, it's helping get rid of this grass, I'll tell you. It's smothering the grass out in this area, which is good. I got daylilies, but they never did too good on this rock garden because it gets too hot and dry. And not being able to keep it watered well. I had to plant something here that likes dry, that will survive in the dry heat. Oh. Let's see if we can get some more sunflowers up here. Put them up here in this area where my totem pole is. Sound like them workers over there having a time. really didn't want to put one in front of the totem pole. Put one here maybe, beside the bird bath. Well, there's a rock there. That's my problem, is I have too many rocks. It might go there. Getting hung on my rose bush, y'all. Oh man, that's gonna look a lot better. I need to come down here and work on this other one. This area right here, around that rose bush. Got a lot of that stuff to pick up later. I love all these wildflowers. I just don't want them, most of them, in my rock garden. I want other stuff here. The ground cover I like. It only helps to keep the ground cool. I got an oak tree coming up right there. Really don't need an oak tree coming up there. Yeah, all this ground cover helps keep that grass out. And it does have little bitty flowers. They're little tiny ones, but they're kind of pretty. And my roses are getting ready to bloom. Put my butt right up in front of the camera. But I've got tons of wildflowers that the seeds, see, had blue. All of that is wildflowers. And they have pretty, look at the purple flowers, the yellow flowers. They're little, but they're pretty. And I couldn't get grass to grow, so I get wildflowers to grow. Isn't that awesome? And I got some right over here I'm going to dig up and I'm going to put in this rock garden. These here are all wildflowers that I put seeds out for years and years ago. But they grow with very little water. They're called blanket flowers, I think, or Indian blanket flowers. And y'all know, if you've been watching my videos in the past, that they blow seeds all over the yard. And I have wild plants coming up all over the yard. And since they live so good here, without constant watering, that's why I like to put them in the rock garden. They're beautiful flowers, and they don't require tons of water. They're wildflowers, so they somehow find their own water. Can't believe how dry that dirt is under there. I'll have to water some of these a little bit with compost tea. You see this one right here in the ground? That's come up from seeds. That's like 3 or 4 plants in one little clump. And they grow down between the rocks. But if you can pull them up and transplant them, they're beautiful. And that dirt is basically dry where I just pulled them up from. So they'll do good over here. But the best time to transplant them is when it's raining or has rained. And I'm sorry again, I know I keep putting my butt up in front of the camera. Can't be helped. But once you plant these things, you'll always have blanket flowers, because they blow seeds all over your yard. And there's a sunflower from last year. Or something, I don't know what that was. It might have been a flower bulb at one time. But if you live in a hot area like I do in Texas, blanket flowers thrive in the heat and the dry. For some reason, they thrive in it. And I got some that was coming up voluntarily that I accidentally pulled up. So I'll stick them back down. Right along with some of these other ones over here. That was a clump of like 5 of them. And if they get plenty of water, they get to be pretty big plants. Whew. I think I just popped dirt in my face. Yeah, but I'm going to be pulling some of those blanket flowers up before the next time I mow and transplanting them to the rock garden. I've done it every year, and they're beautiful. I need to do something else with the rest of these little sunflower plants, though. You got 1,000,001 down here in the bottom, little tiny ones. And I've still got more to pull back there in the garden. So I'm just going to stick them where I can. And if they live, they live. At least I've given them a chance. Whew. But at least my rock garden is looking better. You know, most of the wildflowers have a mind of their own. So a lot of times they'll come up where you least expect it and not necessarily where you plant them. Not at all necessarily where you plant them. And every time a plant grows and produces flowers. It throws millions of seeds all over your yard. We'll put a couple of sunflowers down here, I think. The little ones that are left, they'll grow. It didn't rain as much last night and yesterday as I thought it was going to do, but it was supposed to rain again today or tonight. So if that happens, these ought to get off to a jumping start. But look, I'm gonna have a yard full of sunflowers, and I started out with one little package of sunflower seeds. And it's developed into tons of sunflowers for the whole yard. See if I can get any more in here somewhere. Because the birds will love it, having sunflowers here close to the bird bath. I got 1,000,001 little bitty ones. That'll do it. This is the last bunch I'm going to plant right here. I think they'll grow good here. This ground is really good and wet. So, there we go. Get these wet, dirty gloves off. But I've got those wildflowers that are coming up all over my yard, y'all. All of these right down here on the ground, those are the wildflowers. All of that's wildflowers. It makes you not want to even mow your yard. Look at that. All those are wildflowers. That's the blanket flowers. Indian blanket flowers. So I put them in my rock gardens. And they bloom, they put out flowers, they bloom, they drop seeds, and the wind blows them all over my yard. So I end up with wildflowers, wild blanket flowers everywhere. And you can buy seeds for them. But see how my rose bushes are coming out since I put that banana water to them? Look how pretty they're looking. They were looking kind of scrawny till then. But this is a wild white or yellow rose. And that, of course, is one of the knockout roses. I think it's a pink of one color. I got daylilies. I've got mums coming up right there. They come up every year. Mums here, daylilies. And there's one of my flower bulbs. I can't remember the name of it. Gladiolas, daylilies. And I noticed right here, You can see where the flower bulbs are coming up. See right there? There's 2 of them. They're coming up from where I planted them the other day. And I got one right there coming up. They were red and white, I think. Some of them were pink. And look at that one. That one's going to town right there. It'll be blooming before long. But I got this rock garden full of ivy coming up, and I got to get rid of the ivy because it takes over all the plants. And most of my mums have died out here from the lack of water. But I can always replant, I guess. And I've got the baby's breath coming out here, which I don't want it. I thought I wanted it when I planted it, but like I said, you can't walk through it when it's blooming without getting those little fuzzy stickers all over you. And that's the only reason I don't like it. It grows good in this dry weather, but I don't like the fuzzy stickers that get all over your clothes. And I've got blanket flowers coming up in here too. That clump right there, that's all Indian blanket flowers. And they've spread out kind of throughout the little rock garden here. But like I said, I've got unwanted plants coming up here like the baby's breath. I don't want that stuff. It grows real well here in Texas, but you may not want it. It looks pretty in a flower arrangement. But I tell you, when you plant it in your garden and it blooms and it starts dropping seed, it will take over. That ivy will too. I mean, it's pretty. The ivy is pretty and it's not poisonous. I mean, I've had poison ivy out here before, but it was around on the other side of the house at the, and look at those. Those are wild, but look how pretty they are. They always bloom just about Easter time. Around 1st of April, somewhere along in there. I'll call them my Easter flowers. Oh, I forgot at a larger size, and it looks like you're spinning. I planted some marigolds in there, and I've still got daylilies coming up. And I've got Indian blanket flowers coming up, so it should be pretty later on when all the flowers start blooming. Or when all the marigolds come up. I just planted them, so they haven't had time to germinate and come up. But see, I got baby's breath there. But see, I've got those Easter flowers there too, the pretty purple. I think they're pretty as any of the other ones are. And I got trees coming up. And I got flowers coming up right there. For the life of me, I don't remember what kind, but they are coming up. My tree limbs are falling. The old dead ones. But I got daylilies that are spread out throughout this whole rock garden, so it's full of flowers. That's a Mexican plant right there. It comes up every year. And it has pretty flowers on it when it's blooming. But this used to be a water fountain. And this was full of water. The water would run off the rocks into this bottom pool. And then there was a pump inside this dome that recirculated the water, pumped it back up to the top, and then it would run down again. And it would be beautiful to work that way, but you can't keep the leaves out of it. They took the pump out whenever they moved. They sold this place. So there's no water pump inside. And I don't know how in the world I'd ever get a line run back to the top to put another pump in there. So I just turned it into a flower pot. I plant flowers out here, and it's just as pretty. Well, this video has went on a lot longer than what I intended it to. Isn't that right, little buddy? Huh? But you can see, I need to put some more banana water to my rose bushes here, but it does them a world of good. You can see my clematis is all blooming again. Clematis has just started coming up out of this one. No, I don't even think it started coming up again. This hedge bush, I think, is about to take over this pot. And I thought that was a mandevilla, but it's not. It's just a evergreen hedge bush. I got volunteer tomato plants there. And I planted a jalapeno in there. I don't think the potatoes are going to do anything in here. So I'm going to use it to plant something else in when I transplant more plants. But look at my hostas. Y'all, look at that. I had my doubts, and everybody else did too, that they would even come back up this year. But look how pretty they are. And I've kept these sticks in here to keep Lucky from laying down on them. He liked to kill them last year. He'd get in there and lay down on it because it was cool in the summer. And he was killing my hostas. Thank God, though, they've come back. And I did put a jalapeno seed in there to get a hot pepper growing. And I had put potatoes in here, but they're not going to do anything, so I'm going to plant something else in it. I have not planted in these pots yet. But I did plant here. I've got rosemary there. I've planted a ghost Casper eggplant there from seed. It's not come up. I've got an Anise hispus. That's a herb. I put the seeds in there. They've not come up. I got a black beauty eggplant there. And I planted some jalapeno seeds there. I don't think I planted anything in the top yet. I couldn't decide what I wanted to put there. But I got a celebrity tomato there. I've got a small fruited tomato here, and it's already blooming. And I'll put something else in that pot with it, maybe a bell pepper or something. Look at my lettuce, y'all. I got to eat me a salad today. It's coming out of my bucket. Look at that. I'm definitely going to eat me a salad for lunch, because I'm going to eat up that lettuce and watch it grow again. So these little domes help keep the bugs off of it if you don't let it grow big like that. And look at this. I've got volunteer tomato plants coming up in these pots. And I put a clematis bulb in there. Not clematis, but a caladium bulb in each one of these pots. And I've got, I don't know if that is a zucchini, a pumpkin, a yellow squash, or what it is coming up voluntarily. And there's a volunteer tomato plant. And I got potato vines in there right along with my caladiums. The caladiums have not come up yet, but they like shade. And look at this, and I forgot to mark it. I don't remember what the name of this was, but this one's already bloomed. And that one's getting ready to bloom. This one is too, and this one is. So they're going to be pretty when they're blooming. And my peppermint. My hollyhocks. They've tried to come up 2 times already, and it froze. Froze on the little sprouts each time, so I don't know if I've got any roots left alive down in this pot or not. So what I may do is leave this root. I'm not going to pull them up just in case there's, I think this one's still alive. But I'm going to leave them. And I may drop some dahlia seeds or zinnia seeds or marigold seeds in here just in case the hollyhocks don't come back up. Or I may even put in some more hollyhock seeds. I've got some. I can do that. Little buddy got hungry. But I haven't planted these other pots here yet. I haven't even cleaned them out. I do have a sunflower coming up back there that I didn't plan on. And this is my cilantro, pretty sure, or parsley. Parsley. I had a marker from years ago, so I put it there. My clematis is coming up here in these pots again, and we'll cover the arbor. Look at that. It's hanging down so low, I can't hardly walk under it, though. I'm going to have to get up here and start twisting these vines so they'll grow higher instead of hanging down so low. I don't want them down that low. I mean, they'll be beautiful when the flowers bloom, but you won't be able to walk under it. And see, these are the purple ones. Isn't that pretty? I've got several different brands of the clematis. And I think the lavender and this purple, I can't tell what I'm showing you up there, but the purple ones are the prettiest. The other ones are real pretty too. And my basil, I got 2 plants of basil right there. And y'all know this is my raspberry bush. I've got a pepper here, bell pepper, red bell pepper. And see, I got wild sunflowers coming up in my pots here. Got one coming up in the ground there. I think I'll leave that one in the ground. And I may put those 2 in the ground, get them out of my pot, because I want to use my pot for something else. And I got a wild sunflower coming right there between the 2 black pots. So you'll have sunflowers. If you ever plant them one time, you'll have them coming up. And look at this. I probably should take these covers off of them now. They're big enough. I don't think the bugs will storm them too much. A couple of these anyway. But they like it in those little domes. The bugs can't get to them. But I'm going to try it. We'll see. These other couple of ones I think I'll leave because they're not big enough yet. And there, I got a baby's breath coming up there. And see, I got one coming up in there from the seeds that I put in there. So I'll leave that. And I think those are peppers. Volunteer peppers, if I'm not badly mistaken. So I'm going to leave it for a while longer and see, because I did put some tomato seed in there. And this is my parsley. It finally did come up. My walking onions. I put a zucchini there. Egyptian walking onions there. See, a lot of the pots I haven't planted in yet. And this is my big deal cucumber. I want that sunflower out of there. I don't need these other plants in with my cucumber. I don't think I've ever planted the big dill cucumber before. But I guess they call it the big dill because it's good to make dill pickles with, I guess, I assume. And there's my first pot of Egyptian walking onions. You can tell I've been eating out of them. I've been pulling them up because some of these onions are getting pretty big. They need to be pulled out, and that way I can use my pot to replant in. I've got assorted hot peppers. That was a bunch of hot peppers that I had in vinegar from about a year or so ago. And I just dumped them right in there and covered them with dirt. I'll have a blue million, all kind of different hot peppers come up when they do come up. And I'll just pull them out and spread them around the garden. And I did the same in this pot too. So I'm going to have a ton of hot peppers. And I'll probably put hot peppers in this. I haven't planted anything in it yet. But I've got scallop white bush squash there. It has not come up yet. I planted jalapeno seed there. It hasn't come up yet. I've got eggplant. And look at there, my eggplants are coming up in there from seeds. And see down in there? They're coming up from seeds, y'all. They like the little, love the little bottle greenhouse. And look at this, my asparagus. That one's getting too tall. I gotta break it off. I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it. Or I would have already, if I can get the shot in the camera. I didn't notice it or I would have broke it off before now. See, this is what I like to do. Come out here and get an asparagus and just eat away at it. You have not eaten anything better than that right there. A shoot of asparagus in your garden. I love it like this. It's better like this. Just break it right off and start eating it. It's better than it is if it's cooked. There's no bugs on it. That is so good. And I got a tomato there. And I got a black diamond cherry tomato planted in the back from seed. I got jalapenos planted in these buckets. Seed, that is. And I've got a mini dahlia planted right there. I don't have the rest of them planted yet. Except that little square pot. I've got a jalapeno planted there from seed. And there's my Egyptian walking onions here. And it looks like I've got a volunteer tomato plant coming up. I haven't seen one over here yet. But that right there is a volunteer tomato plant, right there. From the grape tomatoes that were planted there last year. And I'm going to leave it. My Egyptian walking onions there. So I'm going to have a ton of Egyptian walking onions. And see, I haven't planted any of these pots yet. I did put a sunflower in the cinder block. I put one there. I don't know why. They're going to spread like crazy. I don't need that in there. I don't know what that is. I planted a jalapeno in here. And I left this because I don't know